The most news in the morning. CNN's American Morning. Weekday, 6 a.m. Eastern.
Ed, let's start with you. We picked up this tweet overnight from Joe Miller, the insurgent Republican candidate up in Alaska running against Lisa Murkowski. The tweet from Joe Miller, we'll put it on screen. What's the moose hunting like in the Beltway? A little presumptuous there.
The last time I looked, there wasn't many moose in the few elephants that have been shot in the past year. But
they've been doing some rhino hunting
yes,
in Washington.
They are, definitely.
What do you make of that? I mean, you know, Lisa Murkowski was heavily favored to win this race, and out of nowhere, the Sarah Palin-backed Joe Miller looks like he could pull it off.
You know, it's not a big state. There is a very strong Tea Party movement. She was the leader of it. This battle goes back and forth between the Murkowskis and the Palins. You know, Miller ran for Congress and came very close to beating Don Young last time, and he's a good guy. So it's not like he was a perfect stranger. Right,
and if Murkowski goes down, this would be, I think, the 7th incumbent in the Congress to go down in a big name, not just in Alaska, but in Washington. And so that's going to be interesting to watch. And a lot of people have been talking about this winning streak or lack of winning streak for Sarah Palin as she's been going into these states and picking candidates she likes. Lisa, what do you think of the fact that if Joe Miller pulls this off, what that says about Sarah Palin's clout?
Well, I think it only elevates Sarah Palin's clout. I think, you know, you have to remember, too, Lisa Murkowski, people were angry when she was appointed, right? And she also spent a ton of money in Alaska. So this goes against what may be a little bit of a momentum happening of people being able to buy their primaries. Not so here in Alaska. And I think it's a big boost for Sarah Palin and the Tea Party.
Yeah. And speaking of the Tea Party, down in Florida, Marco Rubio had the backing of the Tea Party movement. It is basically what prompted Charlie Crist to get out of the Republican primary and run as an independent. And was interesting to hear Marco Rubio earlier this morning on American Morning because, as some conservatives are pointing out, Marco Rubio did not mention the Tea Party in his victory speech last night. And he had this to say when we talked to him about how the race is shaping up down in Florida.
Washington's got this all wrong. I think both parties are to blame, quite frankly, but Washington has put us on a road that's going to rob us of everything that makes America exceptional.
Both parties to blame in Washington? That doesn't sound like a Tea Party-backed Republican candidate.
No,
Ed?
It doesn't. The Republican Party lost its two established figures. The big upset is Scott winning a gubernatorial nomination, spending $50 million. Every Republican, nationally, statewide, every business group supported Bill McCollum, who's the Attorney General. So they have lost the Attorney General. They've lost Charlie Crist in the sense that he would not have won yesterday. And I think the Republican Party in Florida is at war with the Tea Party, and I think Tea Party won big yesterday.
And Lisa, what do you think about Marco Rubio saying that both parties have had some problems in Washington? That doesn't sound like the Marco Rubio we've been hearing up until this point of the campaign. He seems to want to stake out some middle ground.
Well, absolutely. And I think, again, this is going to trying to go after those independents that Barack Obama got in the presidential election, who are feeling dissatisfied right now with where things are, the state of the economy, and are looking for a place to go. And you see him trying to straddle the middle, so to speak, to try and capture those independents. You see Charlie Crist breaking from the party, again, going in as an independent in this race. And I think what Ed said about McCollum is very interesting because, remember, you had about a dozen would-be hopefuls for the next presidential race backing McCollum for that post. And you also in Florida had this dynamic where you had two other presidential hopefuls, Palin and Gingrich, on opposite sides for the Attorney General seat. So Florida has just been a fascinating, I think, bellwether for what's going on.
One other point. A guy named Mike McAllister that nobody heard of, had no money, got 10% of the vote in the gubernatorial race, wasn't in the debates, no TV commercials, and probably tipped that balance. And he ran against both of them, too. So that 10% is very important in this final.
Let me lay out a scenario for you in Florida. Charlie Crist leaves the Republican Party, runs as an independent. If he wins, he could potentially caucus as a Democrat, although he's not committing to that at this point. Because Rick Scott won the surprise victory last night, Democrats are smiling down in Florida because of this, because they think Republicans and Democrats down in the Sunshine State are concerned that Rick Scott may be sort of a wild card down there because of his colorful past. There's a scenario that could emerge where you could have both the governor's mansion and that Senate seat that used to belong to Mel Martinez flipped to the Democrats because of the way things are moving down there. Do you see that as being a worrisome
certainly a possibility. I mean, we're the two big media states, California and Florida, which are all about television, You have independent people spending tons of money, and the thing about Scott is he spent $50 million in the primary. He can spend $100 million. That doesn't guarantee a victory, but it's changed the dynamics of politics. Totally independent people could come in, go against the establishment, and still be victorious.
And Lisa,
well, or I was going to say, or you have the establishment. Look at what happened with John McCain in Arizona.
Yeah.
Did whatever it would take. Spent $21 million, which was more than the total that he spent in each of his Senate races dating back to 1986. So I think Ed's point is right. You can buy it, and that's a frightening thing in politics, particularly when you have someone like McCain, who has been a strong and outspoken proponent for campaign finance reform.
well, we're out of time, but circling back to the Lisa Murkowski race, some people might start saying that Lisa Murkowski should have paid attention to her challenger the way that John McCain paid attention to his challenger down in Arizona.
No question about that.
No question.
All right, Lisa and Ed, thanks so much for wrapping that up for us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.